recent survey spanning across 3,000 Americans showed that 45% of millennials feel less patient than they did 5 years ago. The only caveat to this experiment and this research was that it was taken in 2019. Given that it has been, I'd say, give or take 4 years since 2019, the introduction of short form content, TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, has made our patience a lot worse. My name is Stan, and this is a full mini guide on becoming more patient. Now, seeing that patience has gone out the window over the last few years, it's quite easy to get frustrated over small, minute things that people do that wouldn't have upset us already. And I'm sure you've heard from your favorite content creators that instant gratification has just become everyone's life now. You want something and you want it now. With our baseline dopamine levels increasing, it's harder to get that fix, which is why we resort to the short form content I previously mentioned, and which is also why our attention span is less of that to a goldfish. Goldfish is like 9 seconds, and we're 8 seconds as of 2020, I believe. Now, if we take a look at the idea that patience is a virtue, that is a saying that dates back centuries. It is a proverbial phrase. Now, when it comes to patience, the ability to wait for something without getting frustrated is attractive, yet more uncommon. To be patient for someone that is just starting out at something, or to be patient for a lover or your girlfriend if she's taking her time and you're just trying to leave the house, or just in general, you're teaching somebody a new skill. It's a lot easier today to get frustrated. And I've caught myself doing, getting in that circumstance of getting angry when I shouldn't have, and I should have been more understanding. And I realized that it's not just me, but observing it from an external lens, it's, my family, my friends, those around me that I went to school with, and just everyone in general. Most people want something in life and they want it right now, and they're not willing to wait and put on this show of discipline ingrained in their mind to achieve such. You need money now. Why build a business when you could scam or rob people? You want to get jacked right now within a month or two? Why go to the gym for 4 years and eat a clean diet when you could take steroids? You want to avoid traffic on the highway, bumper to bumper traffic, and your exit is coming up. Just ride the shoulder and cut people off. I'm going to sound kind of selfish right now, but personally, I didn't care about impatient individuals until it started affecting myself and my family. And then it kind of made me get a greater perspective of what I do that's impatient that affects other people. Kind of gaining a sense of more empathy, which in turn made me realize that I'm hurting other people. And I'll tell you, it's frustrating when you're waiting in traffic and you're on the on ramp for a highway and it's two lanes and somebody drives up and tries to merge into the lane for the on ramp last second. One splits one way, the other splits the other way, and they drive into the one that splits the other way, but then they come in last second, and it pissed me off really badly, which is one of the reasons why I made this mini guide, but it also taught me to just let go, to not let my circumstances or my situation control my emotions, but to be an observer of it, and to also not reinforce this bad behavior. Because if I let them in, I'm pretty much saying that it's okay to be impatient. I don't think it's okay to be impatient. Now, I can't force other people to be impatient. Instead, I could just provide a broader perspective for people to become more patient for the sake of those that they care about. And the best way to say this for people that you don't know or don't care about is to treat others the way you want to be treated. And it kind of upsets myself, and I've known for a while now that this has also upset other people, the term NPCs. I get it. There are people that seem less intellectual, have a lower level of intelligence, put it that way. And you're like, damn, this this person is just not smart whatsoever. How do they even have their license on the road, or how are they a functioning adult in society? And I realized, not all adults are smart or they have it figured out. I'm still figuring things out, and I'd like to think that I'm smart, but that's through a series of hard work. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that everyone is a person. Everyone has their own stuff going on in life, and regardless, you gotta treat people the way that you want to be treated. If someone's gonna cut you off in traffic, you'd be upset. So why are you gonna cut somebody else off in traffic? You want to get jacked in the gym, and you see a 16-year-old jacked in the gym, benching 3 plates, and you're like, damn, I want to be like him. It's kind of discouraging, but then you realize a lot of people take these shortcuts without any mental reservation of the consequences further down the line. Right? We live in a society today that more people have shorter fuses than ever. It's easier to piss people off more than ever. For example, someone's going to cut you off in traffic. Somebody might get angry and get violent at that person that, cut them off, which is not good. For example, steroids in the gym. You're going to shut down your natural testosterone production to where you're dependent on it by the age of 30. Just like scamming people for money. Now, I'm not going to... I could pull Logan Paul for an example, but it's clear that he has a lack of morals. Now, for example, it's going to catch up to you. Scamming people for money, Logan Paul with CryptoZoo, people like CoffeeZilla coming out and investigating and hammering this guy to make sure that he does better. There are definitely more prevalent long-term consequences to shortcuts, and people don't care about those consequences. They want something that's right now. And for this part, I actually wrote a script. It's been a few days, so please bear with me. But the first step towards increasing your patience is to understand what's in your control. You are in control of your future more than you are in your present. What I mean by that is that you should sit down with a course of action for what exactly you want to get out of your current goals, whether it's to lose weight in the gym or to not be late for work anymore. It's simple. Don't expect to lose all the weight on the first day of dieting and exercise, just as much as you expect to arrive to work on time if your commute has you pulling into the parking lot a few minutes before your shift starts. Most diet apps have a calorie counter where you can select to lose 0.5 pounds or 1 pound per week, not lose 30 pounds in a week. It's kind of like how you know if the weather's bad or if you know that your commute is going to be around the time of rush hour traffic. Plan some time to leave earlier. It's better to plan long term to take into account of the worst that can happen as opposed to just planning for the mere perfect circumstances. The point of this step is to properly manage your time, plan out your future self so it doesn't come to bite you in the ass and you end up in a bad position. Going back to the traffic analogy, it's so easy to be caught up in traffic and to call your boss and say, hey, I'm caught up in traffic, I'm going to be a little late. Is it the traffic's fault, or is it your fault for not thinking and taking into account that there will be traffic during that time, and you neglected to take the 5 seconds a few hours beforehand to plug in the route in Google Maps? Now, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and say that there are sometimes things out of your control, like accidents or injuries, but you need to be more attentive to the future. The chances of there being an accident on the highway on your commute to work, for example, it's kind of slim. So you can't say, oh, there's an accident, I'm going to be late for work. As opposed to, hey, there's traffic. I didn't plan this out in my commute, and I left the exact time it would take me to get there for me to start my shift. It's your fault for doing that. You have to take the time to plan effectively and just be patient. By doing that, you don't put your future self in a position where you have to worry about not hitting your target goal or arriving to a certain place at a certain time. Now, let's say there's something absolutely and utterly out of your control. For example, just driving and there's an accident on the highway. You can't control the time it'll take to be done with that event, so there's no use in being impatient. This reminds me of the cliche flow diagram where it says, is it in your control? Yes. Then don't worry about it. Is it out of your control? Yes, then don't worry about it. I might just put it up on the screen. So, step two to becoming more patient is to improve your presence. You are going to improve your presence and state of flow by disconnecting from your technology. I have a rule: don't use social media during the day unless you are creating. You can download an app that will lock the app if you utterly lack the discipline to just not use it during the day. So there are different apps, or you could set like time limits on social media, for example, if you don't lack the discipline. Now, the way that you really want to improve your willpower and discipline is to have it in front of your face. Like, put Instagram and put TikTok on your home dock, on your lock screen, or whatever it is, and just have the willpower to not click on it. Now, if you have been ingrained in the sense of you've been using this for years and it's kind of become a part of your life, then you're going to have to take a radical approach to getting rid of it out of your lifestyle and your habitual activities. So delete it if you're absolutely dependent upon it day by day. Like if your screen time is more than 30 minutes across all your apps, like TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube in some cases, then just delete it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'd say 3 weeks because that's the typical time it takes to build a habit. 90 days is to build a lifestyle. So step 2.1 is mindfulness. So if you want to improve your current state of presence and become more conscious with what's going on right now, you need to slow down and be alone with your mind. I'm telling you to go outside, set a timer for 5 minutes, and just stare at the grass. If you have a thought in your mind, just be aware that you are having that thought. Let it pass and redirect your mind to the grass. Every cliched self-improvement YouTuber will tell you to meditate, which it does, in fact, help. But the thing is with that, if you can stare at your surroundings in silence with minimal thoughts and no technology, you will start to feel every second. Time will pass by slower because you aren't used to the silence and not having your mind be hooked onto something. Doing this will make you feel more in the moment and recognize when you are daydreaming in a completely different universe. So, 4 years ago, I started attending military school. It was a military college, 4 year university, and I just graduated. And part of just the whole indoctrination process was standing in front of your room next to your roommate or your battle buddy and doing cliche things like PT or memorize long excerpts of mission statements or sayings or songs or you name it. And if we weren't training outside of the barracks, we were inside of the barracks training. And most of the time, it's stand at the position of attention. Stand at the position of attention. Hands to your side, feet still, feet at a 45-degree angle. Shoulders back, hands in a fist, and stare directly at the wall in front of you or at the person in front of you. Now, in my case, I stared at the wall and I picked a little chip in the wall. And I can tell you right now, most people don't have the attention span to stare at a wall for 20 minutes. If you want to become more mindful and truly find what you want to get out of life and to become more patient with others, set a timer and stare at the wall. And if you catch yourself going for your phone or looking at other stuffs in your room or thinking, I got to clean the floor, you've lost. And that's all right. Because just like every other aspect of self-improvement in the gym, your presence and your patience is a muscle. And it takes time to build. And you do this through repetition. And I know I'm sounding like Hamza right now, but this is truly the case. You're going to stare at the wall. You're going to stare at it for 20 minutes. And if you fail, that's all right. Next time, beat that time that you failed. Once you hit 20 minutes, you've done it. Now, there comes a point in time where you could stare at the wall for an hour, 2 hours straight, but then that's not really productive towards the things that you have to get done. So draw the line to where you're able to stare at the wall and recognize that you've become more patient with yourself and those around you. Step 2.2, be uncomfortable. People say that the best hack you can do for your productivity is to intermittent fast. Why? Well, you're hungry. This feeling is quite uncomfortable since we are so normal to not be hungry. It doesn't matter if you're hungry, have an itch, or in pain. By feeling uncomfortable, this Step 2.2, be uncomfortable. People say that the best hack you can do for your productivity is to intermittent fast. Why? Well, you're hungry. This feeling is quite uncomfortable since we are so normal to not be hungry. It doesn't matter if you're hungry, have an itch, or in pain. By feeling uncomfortable, the need to fix this physical feeling on or in ourselves allows us to recognize it in the moment. By holding off on correcting those feelings, it allows us to remain uncomfortable. Kind of like how you're in the gym and you feel the weight as you're pressing it. When you rack the weight and you're done moving it, I'm sure you feel your mind start to wander and you start to grab your phone to scroll during the rest breaks. Now, when it comes to becoming more mindful for the sake of becoming more patient, check hum. By holding off on correcting those feelings, it allows you to remain uncomfortable. Kind of like how you're in the gym and you feel that weight as you're pressing it. When you rack the weight and you're done moving it, I'm sure you feel your mind start to wander and you start to grab your phone and scroll on Instagram during your rest breaks. And instead of reaching for your phone and scrolling on Instagram and losing your track of mind when it comes to pressing the weights and losing your true focus on your next set, which will in turn affect you, why don't you just stretch? Stretching, it seems a little uncomfortable, especially in between sets, but I've heard that it's just more beneficial for you and it also gets you off of your phone. If you want to just increase your full presence and become more patient, I recommend you check out Hamza's full guide on achieving flow state. Step 3 to increasing your patience is Essentialism. Essentialism is a book by author and writer Greg McEwen. And the whole premise of the book is to cut out everything unnecessary within your life and solely focus on the things that matter. Right? The more you say yes to something, the more you say no to yourself. Think about it like that. For example, the more commitments you say yes to, oh, come to this gathering, go hang out with your friends, the more you say no to the things you really want to get out of your life. Like, for example, if you want to become an entrepreneur, the more you say no to practicing cold calls or studying business models or, becoming a master of craft at your niche. So, essentialism essentially entails, wow, this is a tongue twister. Essentialism entails the idea that you have to say no, prioritize the things that will put you further and just propel where you want to go in life. Saying no is a good thing, and in fact, it's a thing that propels millionaires and billionaires into, their next business venture. For example, Alex Hormozy, I'm pretty sure he said that he has said no more than he has said yes, and that has essentially propelled his career. So the way this ties into becoming more patient is because by saying no more, you're freeing up your time. You become more patient with yourself. Life is less rushed, and you're able to spend more time on the things that you want to get done, as opposed to doing one thing and rushing over to the next thing. And I know what it's like to feel rushed because I have spent a long time just studying and being a people pleaser and helping other people out. And there was a point in time in my life where I spent 7 months on a ship. And I know there are going to be kids from my college watching this and they're like, oh, I've done that too. You're not special. I know I'm not special, but this is something that has taught me with the rush of life that you got to prioritize yourself and say no. For example, there have been times where we had been out for weeks on end. We hadn't seen land. And I want to go out into port, but I'd set a project milestone because we had projects while we were on our ships. I want to set a milestone to get 4 check boxes done a day. Now we had this huge Excel sheet with around 500 check marks, and each check mark took on average maybe an hour, maybe 45 minutes. So on top of working an 8-hour workday, assuming that there are no maneuverings in and out of port, some days it could be 12 hours, doesn't matter. You still had to get these projects done by a certain time frame. And I always prioritize myself before the fun going out. And by saying no to all the people around me and getting the stuff I need to get done, it allowed me to finish 8 months worth of projects nearly 3 months early. And given I had spent 2 months at home beforehand before I went out for 6 months, So it was like I had less time on the ship to get the information I needed for these projects. So for me to be able to get all this done in a certain time frame, because I was able to say no, prioritize my needs, but also prioritize the direction I want to get to in life. So for example, on top of the projects, spending 3 4 hours a day on projects, I'd work out for 2 hours. So and I'd still manage to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So just goes to show that, saying no to yourself and practicing the way of essentialism will make you more patient with yourself because you have more time to focus on the things you want to focus on, which once you do get successful, you will be able to provide more to the people that you care about as opposed to saying yes right now and not having much to give.